It is Thursday, March the 21st, 2019. We have quite a full agenda tonight, including quite a few motions related to work for the 2019 budget. So we'll get right down to business. Any disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Any disclosure of new business? Matters arising from the minutes? And the minutes of the March 7th regular meeting. Councillor Talbot?
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Fraser that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on March 7, 2019 be adopted.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Next item on the agenda is additions to the agenda. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Fraser that the following item be added to the agenda. Delegation 7B, Robert Waters, B19048, A19028, application for consent and minor variance, 331 Queen Street.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our first delegation tonight is Tiffany Fuster-Salt regarding the application for consent and minor variance at 331 Queen Street. Welcome. Please come forward.
All right. Is this good? I'm just here on Arlie's behalf as she was unable to be here this evening, so I told her that I would speak to the matter for her. So the current proposal is for Severance to create a new affordable infill lot that will support a single family dwelling with the same frontage as she would be left with on her property, which is 10.2 meters. The provincial policy statement encourages this type of severance as it is an effective use of the land that she has available. The proposed single-family residential home will be consistent with the characteristics of the surrounding neighborhood. There's many different property types on this street and in the immediate area, and a new home would most likely have a positive impact on the surrounding home values as it would increase the average sale price for that area. The proposed residential home will be consistent with the street frontage, lot area, setbacks, and spacing of the existing development. Existing municipal services and public facilities would be adequate to accommodate her said proposal. In closing, I'd like to mention that Arlie has lived on this street for 37 years and would not propose to sever anything that would have a negative impact on her neighborhood. And if anybody has any questions, hopefully I will be able to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, we'll deal with that a little later. And our next item is Robert Waters regarding the application for consent and minor variance at 331 Queen Street. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to thank you and your councillors for allowing me to address my concerns that I have on this zone change. Not a zone change, but the minor variance. I also am a resident of the street. I've been there longer than Arlie, actually. I've also been a contractor in town for the past 40 years. So I'm quite aware of how these affect properties in Woodstock. Don't get me wrong, I am totally for infill properties, and I do agree with the severance of this property. I do think it's good. My problem and concern is with the minor variance that's being put on the existing property that they live in there now. This is a 140-year-old property that's been totally within the zoning provisions for 140 years, and now they want to change it to go on into the future as being non-compliant with the zoning change or the variance on it. By putting this variance on this property, I believe probably this could have been done without a variance. They could have still got a lot out of this, fitting in with the zoning provisions, and kept both properties in compliance. So I'm wondering why they have to do this to the existing property that's there now. That's my major concern on it. It does bring up some future issues, but if they both comply, there's nothing that the issues can do with it. But as far as them fitting in the street, that's not going to be the case, because if this zoning variance is allowed, there's another potential 7 properties on the street that could go ahead and do this. This is a 2-block street. The end of the street, which is below Douglas, has 6 properties, and they'll probably in the future be all commercial down there. That's the way it's moving now. So that's going to leave the block with one block of Queen Street. They're all older homes, mostly built in the 1800s. There hasn't been a home built in 60 years. Most of the lot sizes in there are well over 50. They're 66 and up. So they will be allowed to do it with minor variances. There's another 3 properties that could probably be done if they tore down existing old garages. And that will affect property values and not going up with new properties to go down because the properties are going to be smaller with basic garages with living quarters behind them. That's my only concern with it. Not the lot. I agree with it, and I'm sure a lot is going to go there, but my problem is with this variance. Why does they have to put a variance on the existing property? It's going to make this lot so small on the side. It's a huge 2-story house with street appeal that's going to have very poor access to the backyard. You wouldn't even be able to put a ladder up in the property without getting permission from a neighbor, which could make future neighborly problems. The lots are going to be so close together, I can see one of the new owners probably putting a 7-foot fence up, which will make it even worse. By saying there's not going to be a drainage issue, I don't know how they can say that, because any time a building is put on land, it changes drainage. All the lots on Simcoe Street drain onto Queen Street because of the hill. They drain southwest. So the water that goes onto this vacant land now has to go somewhere. And it's not going to be able to get through little wee pathways out onto the street on Queen Street because they're going to be full of snow. It'll be the only place for snow to be put. There won't be any front yards. It'll all be laneway. And that's my issue. I'd like it looked into is making them both legal. It's possible to do it. They don't need a variance.
Thank you. And we'll
Thank
have
you.
some discussion when the planner comes up and a couple additions to the conditions on the property. Any questions from council at this point? Seeing none, thank you very much. And our next item on the agenda is the consideration of planning reports, and we'll start with the application for zone change at 285 Queen Street. Ms. Haschler, welcome. A motion. Councillor Tate.
The Woodstock City Council approved the application for lands described as Part Lot 6 and 7, Block A, Plan 52 in the City of Woodstock to rezone the subject lands from Highway Commercial Zone to Special Highway Commercial Zone to permit a hunting and fishing supply establishment, and further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before this decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Schadenberg. Ms. Haschler.
Thank you. So the first application for zone change affects lands located at 285 Queen Street. And basically the applicant is seeking a zone change to go from C4 to a C4 special to allow a hunting and fishing supply establishment in the existing building on the property. So right now the applicant is, or the business is currently located on the south side of Queen Street, and the business owner is just simply wanting to move to the north side of Queen Street, relocate the business so that they can expand the operation. So a zone change, as you can see, this site has a site-specific zoning, which was passed by council in 2008 to allow the exact same use. And so that's what the applicant is asking for at this point in time. We circulated the application to staff. The only comments that we received were from the building department, and they indicated that the parking on site is considered legal non-conforming. In our opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, as the proposal supports economic development and a mix and range of employment uses within the area. It's also in keeping with the official plan, as it's considered a commercial recreational use, and it meets all the relevant zoning provisions. So in light of that, we would recommend favorable consideration.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next application for official plan amendment and zone change for Crescent Care Retirement Homes at 801 Walter Street. And a mover, Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council support the application to amend the county official plan, file number OP 18-13-8, submitted by Crescent Care Nursing and Retirement Homes Limited and James Lavelle for lands legally described as part of Park Lot 1, Plan 187 in the city of Woodstock to redesignate the subject lands from low-density residential to community facility to facilitate the establishment of a parking lot in support of the abutting long-term home to the immediate west, Crescent Care Nursing. And further, that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the zone change application, file number ZN 8-18-21, submitted by Crescent Care Nursing and Retirement Homes Limited and James Lavelle for lands legally described as part of Park Lot 1, Plan 187 in the city of Woodstock to rezone the lands from residential zone 2, R2 to special community facilities zone CF-3 to ensure the zoning is consistent with the lands to the immediate west. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Accioni. Ms. Hatchler.
Thank you. So this application for official plan amendment and zone change is to redesignate the lands from low-density residential to community facility and to rezone the lands from residential zone 2 to special community facility zone, which is the same zone that the Crescent Care site has. So basically what the applicant is proposing is simply they have purchased the residential lot that their property surrounds, and they would like to expand their use onto the site by using it for a parking lot. The new lot will accommodate 20 parking spaces, and it'll be for visitor and staff parking. The application will be subject to site plan control, at which point staff will review the application for servicing, grading, stormwater management, landscaping, lighting, and screening. And the applicant has also indicated that they are willing to put up a fence so that the proposed use is sensitive to the neighboring properties. In addition to that, we are of the opinion that the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement as it supports the long-term needs of an existing institutional use, and it promotes economic development and competitiveness. We also are of the opinion that the application is in keeping with the official plan policies as it's supporting an existing long-term care facility, and which is in keeping with the policies of the official plan. And we're also satisfied that the application or the proposal is in keeping with the zoning bylaw. As such, we would recommend that council give the application's favorable consideration.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next item, we have a couple additions to the conditions. And Councillor Tate.
The Woodstock City Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject property subject to the following 5 conditions. There's 7? 7.
And the seconder, Councillor Fraser.
Okay, so this application is an application for a severance to create a vacant lot for a single detached dwelling and retain a lot for an existing single detached dwelling. And the property is located at 331 Queen Street. The applicant is also requesting relief to reduce the minimum interior side yard width on the lot to be retained from 3 meters to 1.45 meters. And as I indicated, the current site has a single detached dwelling on it. I think I'll speak to the Mr. Waters' concerns about the property. So with respect to the requiring relief from the zoning bylaw, generally when there's a proposal for, when there's a a single detached dwelling that does not have a garage, the applicant is required to provide 3 meters on one side for an interior side yard and 1.2 meters for the interior side yard. And basically that requirement is to allow for adequate parking, access to the rear yard, grading and drainage. In this case, the applicant is requesting relief from the setback from 3 meters to 1.45 meters because she doesn't have an attached garage. So she is still able to provide that parking space, and this is why staff are supportive of the variance. She's still able to provide that parking space along the side of the house. So really she's asking for relief for this rear portion of the house. But beyond that, it's our opinion that there's still adequate access to get to the rear yard for maintenance and grading and drainage. Like I said before, generally, if it would have had an attached garage, she would only need 1.2 meters on either side. So we feel that 1.45 meters in addition to the parking that she's providing is adequate. So for those reasons, we're supportive of the request for the minor variance. And then with respect to the severance, we're satisfied that it's a form of infill development. It provides intensification for the area. It's generally in keeping with the R2 zoning provisions. In this case, the applicant's providing 10.2 meters for each lot, and I think that's why she has requested the minor variance. She wanted to make sure that they were the same size. And so whereas the minimum requirement for the R2 zone for a single detached dwelling is 9 meters, and the minimum depth is 28 meters, and she's providing 35 meters. So the lots are larger than what's generally required in the R2 zone. She's providing 355 square meters and 358 square meters, whereas the minimum is 290 square meters. And I did note in the report that although the lots may appear to be somewhat smaller than some of the other lots in the area, we still feel that it's compatible because both lots are able to accommodate houses that are similar to other houses in the area and are able to meet the other required setbacks. So in light of that, we would recommend that the application be given favorable consideration. And sorry, I completely forgot the additional comments that we received this afternoon were from County Public Works. And they commented on there is an existing sanitary trunk sewer along the back of the property, which the applicant will not be able to build on. The survey says that there's an easement. However, when we consulted with the city solicitor, he couldn't find any sort of easement that was registered on title. So that being said, the county has requested that an easement be established over that trunk so that they can maintain it in the future. So in light of that, we would recommend favorable consideration.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Thank you. And our next item on the agenda is consideration of correspondence, and we have one regarding the community fundraising for Southwestern Ontario Kids Help Phone. Councillor Accioni.
Sorry, Your Worship. Move that the correspondence received from Kids Help Phone regarding the 18th annual walk so kids can talk request for in-kind support be supported.
And a seconder, Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And we have correspondence from the County of Oxford regarding the Lake Erie Source Protection Region. Councillor Talbot.
I'll move the Woodstock City Council support the nomination of the Oxford County Coordinator of Source Protection, Risk Management Official and Inspector for appointment to Lake Erie Region Source Protection Committee.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Schadenberg. And discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next one on the agenda is also from the County of Oxford for the Thames Sydenham and Region Drinking Water Source Protection. Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, make a motion that the City of Woodstock agrees to support the Thames Sydenham Source Protection Report, number 201-90301.
Okay. And a seconder, Councillor Fraser. And you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next on for correspondence is from Saugeen Shores, request for Government of Canada and Province of Ontario to open the application process for bilateral Investing in Canada infrastructure program that was signed on March 14th, 2017. Councillor Schadenberg.
I guess through to the mayor, just a quick background on it. Obviously, the councils around the province of Ontario would have received correspondence to support this from Saugeen Shores. Support the motion really was passed at their level, and it's a kind of complex report. It's about 6 pages if you want to look for it online. But anyway, the request to the Government of Canada and Province of Ontario to support the application process for the bilateral Investing in Canada infrastructure report that was signed on March 14th, 2017, to be able to support this motion.
Some of that was the commentary for afterwards, but that's fine. We'll get the hang of all of that later. A seconder on the motion, Councillor Accioni. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next one, we're already looking at some of our tender awards. So we have the report from 2018. Councillor Fraser.
Woodstock City Council received the 2018 Tender Awards report as information.
With the seconder, we'll go with Councillor Tate. Discussion? Councillor Fraser.
Possibly our engineer could maybe just highlight some of this for the public. If that's, or it should be our treasurer.
Well, I think the treasurer can tell you what a great job that the engineering department did on getting some of these under bid. He can tell us some of the things that he bought that he saved money on.
That was the whole point.
There we go.
Your worship, through the councillor. Yeah, most of it, if you look at it, is from our fleet budget. You'll see a garbage truck for almost $250,000, some pickup trucks, SUV for bylaw, and as well as some road reconstruction projects. I guess, you know, is there anything specific you wanted to know, or you just, yeah?
No, just a general idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next one on the agenda is the 2019 budget approval. And so we can go through these one at a time, and then we'll finalize things near the end. So at council's leisure, we can start taking things from the top on the agenda, or we can pop around to ones that you feel particularly interested about. So looking for a motion to amend the base budget and some of these corrections we have within our accounting. So we'll start there. Councillor Accioni.
If that's okay, I'll make the motion then that account number 0200-71399-0755, provision for reserve parks and open spaces, be reduced from $400,000 to $200,000.
Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next one on the accounting side, Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that account 0713-84250-0352 Cowan Park Indoor Heat be reduced from $65,000 to $15,000.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Accioni. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And one more of those. Councillor Fraser.
That account number 0303-74210-0102, engineering overtime be reduced from $42,860 to $6,000.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Schadenberg. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Now we have some of the suggested sustainability for our asset management. Would anyone like to start there? We'll start with Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that the request to increase their contribution to the asphalt resurfacing reserve in the amount of $200,000 be approved and funded from the 2018 surplus.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Accioni. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the Councillor Lauder.
The reason I asked for this out of surplus, I did speak with Mrs. Hilderly, and this doesn't affect the budget if it comes out of surplus, so it'll just help lower the amount that we have to try and collect. So that's why I put this motion forward.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And we have one on the capital levy. Okay. Seeing none. Councillor Fraser.
That the request for one-time capital levy in amount of 100,000 increments be approved for contribution to the municipal building reserve for the community complex roof replacement.
And so, or would we make that for 100,000 exactly? Okay. Is there a seconder on that? Councillor Talbot, discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And it carries. And then we have some additions to base budget. And you can start at the top here or work your way through the list. Who would like to go first? Councillor Tate.
I'll move that the staffing request from the Human Resources Department for a temporary full-time health and safety assistant for 4 months each year at a cost of $15,000 be approved.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Fraser. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Councillor Tate.
I'll make a motion that a reorganization of the City Engineers Department, creating 2 separate departments, being a Public Works Department and the City Engineers Department, be approved, and further that the replacement of the Works Superintendent position with the Director of Public Works as the new department head at a cost of $15,000 be approved.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Accioni. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Next item. Councillor Tate.
Okay, I was going to move 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 all together unless somebody wants them pulled out.
So we have a series of 5 through 9, and this is staffing requests for engineering and for parks. And we have a seconder from Councillor Fraser. Discussion? Councillor Accioni first.
Thank you, Your Worship. More for a general comment, really. It's just the city is growing by so much, and we really haven't kept up with the amount of staffing that is required. So I think this really does get us maybe not quite there, but at least closer to what we need. So certainly support it. Thank you. And to all the staff that have been doing what they've been doing.
Thank you. Councillor Schattenberg. Oh, no, you're good. All right. Further discussion? Seeing none. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Then who would like to start on culture? Councillor Fraser.
So that we have item 10 and 11, both for Woodstock Museum and Woodstock Art Gallery. One for the communications facility rental coordinator position, part-time to full-time, at a cost of $15,000 be approved, and the request for the Woodstock Art Gallery to increase the hours at custodian position from 35 to 40 hours per week at a cost of $5,100 be approved.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Seeing none. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Next item, we have Councillor Schattenberg.
Number 12, that the request for marketing and special events to convert the communications and special events assistant to a full-time position at a cost of $26,700 be approved.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Accioni. Discussion? Seeing none. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And next we have transit. Councillor Schattenberg.
That the request from the Transit Department for a lead hand support for evenings and weekends at a cost of $30,000 be approved.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Tate. Discussion. Councillor Schadenberg.
I guess through to the mayor, to Harold DeHaan, the engineer. What specifically would be, as far as the staffing goes, to be able to make this necessary requirement the evenings and the weekend for the lead hand? What's their role versus what's already taking place, basically?
Your worship, through the councillor, currently, after office hours, there really is no supervision over the transit system. So if something pops up, they have to call somebody, in which increases the delay, as well as, basically you have employees working unsupervised. So what this will do is this will put a seventh man on the crew after hours that'll be able to immediately respond to issues as they pop up, as well as providing assistance to the drivers as they go, instead of having to wait till the next day.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Analyst at a cost of $37,900 be approved.
Seconded by Councillor Accioni. Discussion. Councillor Schadenberg.
Through to the mayor, to the treasurer, Patrice Hilderly. I guess we talked on the phone earlier today about what all is involved with the with this program, the asset management analyst, and just for the people maybe that are watching and unsure what this position would be, it really does cover more than just sort of municipal buildings. It really covers quite a bit in the city of Woodstock.
Indeed, it does. The province has introduced asset management to us. And not only do we have to keep track of our buildings, but we need to keep track of all our playgrounds, our roads, our sidewalks, our sewers. It's very extensive, our parks. And we're going to be required to maintain a comprehensive asset plan and be able to report on various functions to the province as well. In order to attract any kind of funding, we're going to have this kind of information in place.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And next on the agenda, we have Building Department. Councillor Tate.
I'll move that the new staffing request from the Building Department for an additional co-op student in the amount of $10,600 be financed from Building Department Reserve be approved.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And now we can go into some of the service level changes. So some improvements, if council directs. So we'll start with Councillor Fraser.
Cowan Park conversion to daytime evening hours year-round. The budget be amended to include additional expenditures and revenues as detailed in the 2019 Cowan Park service level change to convert Cowan Park to daytime and evening hours with a net increase to the tax levy of $130,000. And further, that City Council approve the staffing complement for the service level change, including a full-time facility supervisor, a full-time customer service clerk, and a part-time custodian, clerical, and program staff as detailed in the 2019 Cowan Park service level change description.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Accioni. And just for any of the viewers at home, you know that recently at one of our council meetings, we approved the name change of Cowan Park to Cowan Sportsplex. This is a little bit of a motion from the budget that was in the transition period. So when you see the new signs up, you know that this is what we're talking about. Further discussion? Councillor Fraser.
Your worship, through to Mr. Connors, maybe just for the public's information, Mr. Connors could just expand on, once again, because we've done this before, what this will allow the Cowan Park operational schedule to look like.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, what this will do, it will it will allow us to continue to program during the day. If we don't see the this budget move forward with the additions, we would have to go back to the pre-October 29th running of Cowan, which would just be Monday through Friday from 4:30 to 10. So this allows us to be open evenings, weekends, and to program those times as well. So it really allows it to have operating hours very close to the community complex as opposed to the Civic Center arena.
And just further to that, because there's so many in the public that if they're able to watch this, will be interested in the walking track availability. You could just expand on that one, Mr. Connors. Thank you.
Your Worship, through the councillor's question, this will allow the walking track hours to continue and will also allow us to provide complete times during the day for the walking track, so we won't have to cut back on the walking track.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
I just want to make a comment. I have been out to the walking track 3 times, and it's amazing to see the people that's out there and the people that might be with canes or walkers or strollers, children, and everyone is so complimentary of the walking track. So if we didn't approve having that walking track, I would hate to be here when we said no, because it is really appreciated and they are using it.
You further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries unanimous. And next on the agenda is the options for waste management and recycling enhancement. Councillor Tate.
I'll move option 3, rolling 6-day collection. Do you want me to read it all? Or do you want the city engineer to speak to it? That weekly curbside garbage and recycling collection on a rolling 6-day collection basis be approved for implementation in spring of 2020, and further that an additional full-time recycling collector be approved as a base budget item in the 2020 revenue fund budget, and further that the estimated cost of $154,000 inclusive of staff costs be approved as a base budget item in the 2020 revenue fund budget, and further that the Clark Street Recyclable Depot be closed and the materials collected at the James Street Enviro Depot be expanded to accept household recyclables, and further that the opening of the Enviro Depot for 2 additional days in December during the Christmas season be approved in 2020 at an estimated cost of $3,500, and further that the 2019 capital budget be amended to include $230,000 for 1 new split packer to be financed from the reserve for equipment replacement, and further that staff be directed to develop and deliver an education and communication strategy to support the transition to the new collection cycles.
Thank you. And a seconder on that motion. We'll go with Councillor Schadenberg. Discussion. So I think this one's been something that's been talked about by a lot of people in the friendly city. We've had surveys and a lot of information, and people would like to see an enhancement to recycling. And we'll have a lot more communication. A lot of these items deal with us getting ready to start this in the spring of 2020, and there'll be a lot more communication coming forward to the citizens over the coming year. Oh, more discussion. Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, through the mayor again to engineer. With a 6-day co-collection, what happens on a long weekend where a Monday might be a holiday?
Your Worship, through the councillor. So on a six-day rolling, so you have days 1 through 6. So if we pick up, say, day 3 on Friday, if Monday's a holiday, then we'll pick up the day 4 route, and then go 5, 6, and then back into the cycle. So basically, every time there's a holiday, it pushes the cycle back a day.
Councillor Fraser.
Mr. DeHaan's ready to answer my question, Your Worship, to him. And so the advertising will explain to people how they can figure out what day their garbage is going to be picked up, and I understand that there's an app for those with smartphones that will remind you when to put your garbage and recycles up.
Your Worship, through the councillor, yes, there is an app that will even send you emails like the day before, reminding you that it is your collection day the next day. Or if you're old school like me, you put the calendar up on the fridge and you just check it out. So.
Or you can watch that one neighbor that always gets it right.
And does it at 6 in the morning.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Approved. Unanimous. And now winter sidewalk maintenance. Councillor Accioni.
Yes, moved by myself that Woodstock City Council directs staff to prepare a draft bylaw that assigns the responsibility for municipal sidewalk snow clearing to the adjacent property owners and to prepare a report that provides an implementation and communication plan.
Seconder. We'll go with Councillor Lauder. Discussion. Councillor Accioni.
Thank you, Your Worship. This has been obviously a sore spot for a very long time, and I think it's about time this has been done. Certainly, the expense for us to clear the sidewalks as a city is not feasible at all in my mind, and this is definitely the best way to enforce it. Following certain other cities that having a lot of success with it. So I guess that's it. More of a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And next item is public transit. Councillor Talbot.
I'll move the request for $10,000 finance from the Provincial Dedicated Gas Tax Reserve to complete a rerouting study be approved.
And a seconder. Councillor Fraser. Discussion? Councillor, no? Okay. Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And now we're getting into some miscellaneous items. And who would like to go first? Councillor Lauder?
I'm going to jump to number 22, and that I'm going to move to deny the request for $25,000 to develop an external hosted internet with council/employee portable be approved. I mean, I'm sorry, just portable, yeah, sorry.
Thank you. And a seconder on that? Councillor Tate. Discussion? Councillor Lauder.
I've taken that, or I thought of this should be taken out at this time. There, as you can see, we have so much expense going on throughout this whole additions to the budget, and I just think that this could be something that can be examined at another time. So that's why I've asked to deny this one.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries. And some more items. Councillor Accioni.
We'll start back at number 20, that the request from Administrative Services Department for capital budget software at a cost of $21,000 be approved.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Tate. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Next item, Councillor Fraser.
That the request from Human Resources Department for Great Plains integrated software at a cost of $19,100 be approved.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Tate. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Almost sounded like you said Great Pains, which is what I first called it when I used that software. Let's see. Next item on the agenda, Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that the request from the Development Department for an additional $70,000 for physician recruitment be approved.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Accioni. Discussion? Councillor Lauder.
I just want to mention that at our meeting at the hospital on Tuesday, they said that we require 6 new doctors, GPs now. So I think that this is important that we go. We've started it, so we have to put a bit more money into it to keep it going and try and get these doctors here. So it's just a comment.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Next item, Councillor Tate.
I'll move number 24, that the request from the Heritage Committee for $10,000 to undertake a heritage inventory on the south side of Dundas Street be approved.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Fraser. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Next item, we'll go with Councillor Fraser.
25 and 26, that the request received from Woodstock Public Library Board to reduce account number 100-69709-000 by $1,000 and to increase account number 100-836-100-0627 to $10,000 in order to provide more flexible programs be approved. And further, that the request received from Woodstock Public Library Board to establish a new revenue account for wireless hotspots in the amount of $6,000, and that account 100-83610-0350 telephone be increased to $14,800 to purchase 20 wireless internet hubs be approved.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Accioni. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motions. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And we have some other motions. So no takers on 27. How about 28 for the hours? No takers at this point. Okay. Sunday service? Not yet. Any on the motions for levy increase? Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that a 25-cent increase for the transit and paratransit cash fare with corresponding increases for other methods of payment be approved. Finish it. And further, that the levy for transit and paratransit be reduced by the estimated $50,000 additional revenue.
Thank you. Further discussion? Or actually, let's see, we need a seconder. Seconder, Councillor Schadenberg. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Do those hands one more time. 1, 2, 3. And opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Denied. Thank you. And so then, are there any other motions from the floor for additions or deletions to the budget? Increases or reductions? Okay. Then a final motion to approve the budget. Who would like to go on that one first? Councillor Accioni.
Sure. Move that Woodstock City Council approve the 2019 Revenue Fund budget as amended, and that the Director of Administrative Services be directed to prepare the necessary bylaws for council consideration.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. So we now have an approved budget for 2019. We have lots of information that staff will be working on and disseminating, and we'll have some information for the press and the public a little later with some exact calculations. And our next item on the agenda would be the report from the Development Commissioner. Councillor Talbot.
I move that Woodstock City Council refer the repeal of bylaw 9221-18 to the bylaw section of the agenda.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Accioni. Discussions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And next one from Development Commissioner, Councillor Accioni.
Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the necessary agreement of purchase and sale with GNI, and that the necessary bylaw be read.
You and a seconder, Councillor Tate. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And then we have appointment for the community grants. And we'll go with Councillor Tate.
Make a motion that Woodstock City Council confirm the appointment of Peter Donahue to the Community Grants Advisory Committee with a term ending November 14th, 2022.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fraser. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And then we have no notices of motion or new business, so bylaws. Councillor Talbot.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Fraser that the following bylaws be given first and second reading. 928219, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 862610 as amended ZNN 81906 Queen Street. And 928319, a bylaw to repeal the City of Woodstock bylaw number 922118, a bylaw to provide for the sale of certain lands owned by the corporation of the City of Woodstock to Mark Ellis. And 928419, a bylaw to provide for the purchase of certain lands owned by GNI Management, Inc., Batulo.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. Councillor Talbot.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Fraser that the filing bylaws be given third and final reading, 928219 inclusive to 928419.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And tonight, for questions and addresses, we will start with Councillor Tate.
Just want to give a little update on the boundary adjustment. I guess there's really no boundary adjustment update, but just what's going on, because we've got a committee set up. We sent a letter to EZT and got nothing back, so we sent another letter. They put it on their agenda last week, and just for council's information, they turned it down. So there was a meeting last week with the county on development charges, and it explained what our population's going to be in a very short time, and we are out of land. So I know that the mayor of EZT did campaign on doing a boundary adjustment, and so far there's nothing. So anybody that's watching and you live in that area, maybe call your local mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Schadenberg.
Thanks a lot. One thing I've noticed through the City of Woodstock and the Rec and Leisure Guide in particular, and also on the website, is the Summer Camp 2019 registrations have started this year. There's over 100 different camps for the City of Woodstock for kids 4 to 16 years old, and cityofwoodstock.ca/online registration is where you can find lots more information, everything from sports to outdoor activities, crafts, baking, science. So many camps going on this summer, so your kids should be very busy. And I want to thank everyone in the City of Woodstock that's involved with these, whether it be Brian Connors to Emma Vondervoort, to create these camps throughout the City of Woodstock. It's going to be a terrific summer for the kids. Thanks.
Thank you. No story about the turtle and Conservation Authority? Not tonight. All right. Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, and he's probably saving that for warm weather. Welcome to spring. Yeah, it's even smelled a bit like spring. Just in some pre-advertising on behalf of the BIA, because it'll soon come upon us now that spring is here. May 25th. At Museum Square, there is a event called Bark in the Park. Bring your puppies to the park. And it's being sponsored by an organization called Tiny Paws. And there'll be vendors for your small animals. So I think it's an interesting aspect for Museum Square. And I understand there's a rumor that we may have Wienerfest coming to Woodstock as well, and in June. So I think that will be an interesting event as well, which is the BIA is deeply involved with. And of course, the Farmers Market and the Museum Square will start on May 16th. Even though that's a few weeks away, we can't start advertising these things early enough. And I hope everybody enjoys the spring weather that's about to come after the snow we get tomorrow.
Thank you. Just a good reminder on safety to not take off those winter ice tires for a few more weeks. Councillor Talbot.
That wasn't very nice, actually. I just want you to know that. Just a reminder, on Tuesday, March the 26th, if you held tickets for Forks and Corks, the Woodstock Chamber event, it is happening unless we get more snow. Thank you. We're probably cursed now. Anyways, it's a wonderful social and networking event. Lots of food vendors and other vendors. Come on out and join us if you haven't got your tickets, but if you do have your tickets, the old ones are good for this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Now that we have finalized our budget, Tonight, I would like to remind the public that salaries and wages are 69.2% of the tax levy, while the debt is 2.5% for a total of 71%. Therefore, there is not a lot of room when looking at the balances of the balance of the budget, especially when we look at the growth of our city and the programs that we provide in our city. Further, I would like to thank all the staff that has worked so diligently in preparing the budget and presenting us to us. You do such a great job that it's very difficult to go through this budget and say, we've got to cut this and we have to cut this. You've done such a good job of selling it that there's very little room for movement. So thank you all again for the work you've done.
Thank you. Councillor Accioni.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd also like to say a big thank you to all city staff, mostly for not making me feel like an idiot when I ask all the questions. So you're really good at answering questions and doing exactly what Councillor Lauder had said, that, I mean, before you present to us, you really do go through them, and we realize that. So we thank you. Hopefully we'll see you at Forks and Corks. Gems in Java is also coming up. Mothers with a Heart for Ethiopia, April 12th and 13th, as well as the 38th annual fish fry for the Woodstock Rotary Club, Saturday, April 13th. So hopefully we'll see you out at those events. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And I have an update regarding our deepening relationships with the people in Taiwan. Of course, our Woodstock Collegiate Institute has had a special relationship now since the year 2000 with Tam Kang High School, which is in Tam Sui, where Oxford County's Reverend Mackay went in 1870 to set up his mission, and the church and the hospital and the school, and eventually Oxford College, which was founded by all of the donations of the people here in Oxford County. So he's a national hero, and those schools have done a great job in expanding and deepening that relationship. Also through the County of Oxford, we have our twinning with the city of Tam Sui in New Taipei, and so each time there's been one of these exchanges, it's been customary for the warden to attend, and we've also sent some others as well, such as in the past, Councillor Talbot has been there and saw how great and hospitable the people are. Of course, my daughter was on that exchange trip, and I thought that when I signed up, it was mostly going to be about being a chaperone and getting to go to all of those same sites and having a wonderful experience relaxing in Taiwan. But when the Taiwanese trade offices found out that the mayor of the city of Woodstock was coming to Taiwan, they made sure to fill up the agenda with a lot of new relationships with government departments and businesses that are looking to expand into North America. Of course, Canada recognizes the One Taiwan or One China policy, so we don't officially recognize Taiwan the way they would like to be, but they understand that with some of the tensions that are going on in the relationships between the United States and China, they are looking to diversify, they're looking for new partnerships, they're looking to invest in North America. And we are positioned very well. They know the strong work ethic here in our region and the diligent work that goes on in our communities. So we are going to be seeing a lot more Taiwanese people coming to our area. There will be some economic development activity taking place around that. It'll also form part of an upcoming trade mission with our Southern Ontario Marketing Alliance. And for the International Renewable Energy Academy this year in June, when they come here with their PhD and postdoctorate students from all those countries around the world, for the first time ever, Taiwan will be sending a contingent of those PhDs and postdoctorates to see some great experiential learning here in the community. So one thing I want to say is, of course, all of these young people that have been ambassadors and the work that's taken place at the county. And for those of you who don't know about Reverend Mackay, stop by the courthouse and you can see the big bust of him with his big flowing beard, and learn a little bit more at our local museum as well. Now, we do have some final numbers on the budget, so this will be a good chance for those that are viewing right now, as well as council, to get an update prior to hearing it on the radio station or reading it in the paper. So the tax rate for the city of Woodstock will increase by 0.32%. Now, when you look at the values of homes changing and everything else, what that equates to for the typical detached single-family home with an assessed value of $250,773, that is a $46.73 increase. So what that represents is actually an increase that is below inflation. So as has already been mentioned numerous times during these meetings and special meetings, Woodstock has been very fortunate as a city to see some of the great growth that's been happening and the new jobs that are being created. We do know that there's pressures with some of those services, so council has had to make some very big decisions for long-term planning with some big numbers associated with it. But when you look at how we have improved all of these services, the number of day programs for youth that are involved, that has had such large increases. The investments we've made with our fire, investments we've made with police to recognize the increased safety efforts and issues that are happening in other communities. To have a budget come in at or below inflation with all of these improvements is a great testament to the fine work and the good financial management here at the city, with thanks to all of staff and all of council. And of course, that asset management will have more fine tuning as we move forward into the future, and we're going to continue to be the envy of many of the communities in southwestern Ontario when they see what's going well in the city of Woodstock. So those are the raw numbers right now, and you'll see some more details later when we combine it with county levies and education taxes and all that kind of stuff. So good job, everybody. And looking for a motion to adjourn, Councillor Accioni, and a seconder, Councillor Fraser. All those in favor? We are